Hey, it's Tim here. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to assemble a 12th gen framework DIY build laptop. Yes, I record the whole entire process from start to finish, right from installing the components, the SSD, the memory, all the way through to BIOS updates and Windows booting after installing Windows 11. The video is timestamped, so you can skip ahead to the bits that you want to go and watch. I do talk a lot as well, so don't feel bad about skipping ahead and going to the bits you want to see. Nonetheless, as ever, let's get stuck in and let me show you how to build the framework laptop. Okay, so we're here. We have the framework boxed up here. I've literally not opened it since it arrived yesterday. I wanted to go through the whole experience and kind of show you what it looks like, as you would get it as an everyday person. I've also got the camera up above so you can have a top-down view as I try and assemble this computer. What I have here is the framework guide, and what is interesting is it looks very similar to the guides that you get on iFixit. I've actually got an iFixit screwdriver kit on the desk, so maybe that's something that they've done as part of the partnership with iFixit, just essentially borrow their structure and the design for the guide. And yeah, anyway, we're gonna get into unboxing this. Let's just have a look and see what we have. It's actually quite well taped. You can tell that the corners of the device have been sort of have taken a knock at various points, but it's really well taped up. And I assume this is just expected with packages, traveling around the world. When I ordered this, it went on a bit of journey. I think like most laptops, it started off a journey in China, and then it's ended up all the way in the UK with me. So let's just see if I can. It's really not obvious how this opens actually. I think there's something here, and I just need to get the scissors right in there. There we go. I think it's here. There we go. So I just put a bit of pressure in there. There you go. Sometimes when you get sort of devices from Apple, as part of the packaging experience, actually, they have a little label that tells you like where you're supposed to open it. And this is actually so well taped, it's not obvious that this is sort of how it opens up. So here we are. This is the experience of opening it up. I didn't order a couple of things. I didn't order a power, cable. I didn't order like a power brick, as it were. So you won't see any of that. I think that's probably what goes in the space. So when you receive something like this, you should expect some sort of dead space from time to time, because depending on what you've ordered, this box is supposedly supposed to fit everything most people would order, and maybe have a bit of space left over. So we have this. I assume this must be the screen. We have a little spacer, we have another spacer. I'll kind of leave those there actually, so that I remember where those go. And then we have what looks like it's actually the laptop. And so the laptop itself is also packaged really, really well. So if I look at the back here, what does it say? Framework Laptops DIY Edition, 12th Gen Core 171280p UK, and it's got like a barcode and maybe some QR code that you can use. Again, it's much easier to see here how to open this, so let's go ahead and open that. I should really be following the guide, but I'm not bothering that. I'm just gonna sort of just cut this open. And I hope it's sort of self-explanatory. So I think I can quite confidently get rid of the shipping box, because that's kind of not part of the process. So we have just these two devices. I have this, which feels like the peripherals. So let's actually just open that quickly. There we go. So when you get the peripherals, because you're custom building the laptop yourself, you kind of get everything you need. You've got the hard drive. I actually ordered a really decent hard drive. This is a 1 terabyte Gen 4, so I'll kind of put it up to the camera so you can see there. It's a 1 terabyte Gen 4 hard drive, so it's kind of really well spec'd. I think the laptop's going to really enjoy that. It's actually a game drive, but what's fascinating is this is almost exactly what you'd buy at the shop. It's nothing special. It's just all packaged in there, and I think mine came like that. So it kind of uses this plastic lip just to stay in place, which is a really nice touch actually. It's really clever. And then you can see that I've actually got each of the expansion cards. One of the nice things with the framework laptop is you can actually order the ports you want. So for me, I went for 2 USB-C ports. So I get these two little expansion USB-C slots. They're kind of really handy to have. And then I got HDMI because every so often it's really useful to be able to just you know, connect to a HDMI port. That's actually what I use on my MacBook Pro, so it's good to have a similar port. The other thing is I can also hot swap this out with a different port should I ever go into an environment where a different port is necessary. And these expansion cards are actually quite cheap, so for the hassle of not having to buy a dongle just to use one port, these are really, really smart. You could actually sort of carry these with you in a like a tech bag or tech pouch, and then you don't have to worry too much about it. And then if I go to this one here, this is the USB-A expansion card. So you can see here, this is also quite nice. So yeah, this is useful. Okay, so the other two things are the RAM. So you've got the RAM here. I've got two 32 gig sticks. I felt pretty lucky that I can get two DDR4 you know, RAM sticks in a laptop to give me 64 gig of RAM. And RAM is one of those things where you don't know you need it until you need it. And to give you some context, on my MacBook Pro, I only got 32 gig of RAM. And on a daily basis, I actually do hit that limit quite easily, largely because of creative applications I use. But I'm also starting to find when I'm using a lot of AI tools and AI technologies, they just use a lot of RAM sometimes when they're processing various things. For example, I use a transcription that uses a lot of RAM when it's actually running through the actual process. So yeah, I thought I'd future-proof myself at least and just give myself more RAM than I'd ever need. And so I should never see a RAM utilization you know, warning on the laptop. And if so, well, the 1 terabyte SSD should be pretty effective swap for that. So what I'll do is I'll put these components here. I'll put this to the side. I like this little container actually. It's quite well thought through, and we'll put it off to the side and get it out of the way and just put it over there. So we have the different ports. I'll put those up there. We have our RAM, and we have a hard drive at the top. And so now let's actually open the laptop itself. So this is really cool. You get a little nice little box. This is all sort of printed. I thought this was coming out, but it's not. It's just a really nice sort of printed design. This is the laptop itself, and it's quite weird actually. I know I have to build this laptop, but it's still quite weird to see it just here. So let's pull this out and let's see what we have. So we actually, you know what? I think what they've done here is that is the laptop. And if I lift, oh, I actually get a little screwdriver as well, a little framework screwdriver, to show you what that looks like. It's kind of like a really, it's really kind of nice. Let me put my hand there so it can focus there. So it's kind of like a really nice, it's kind of got a spudger on this end and then a screwdriver on that end. And that's like a dual bit screwdriver. So if I show you that, it's kind of, it's very, very nice touch, actually. I really like that. I do have the iFixit kit anyway, but I also have some stickers that's kind of handy to have, and everything is really good. I'll probably end up not sticking those on anything. I like my technology nice and clean. And then I'm thinking, is there anything else underneath this? I mean, maybe not. Maybe this is everything. Maybe everything is already pre-built. And I was expecting to have to build the whole thing and add what I needed to add, but it looks like no, that is everything. So in terms of my expectations, I'm already sort of okay. So this is actually what the website says. I should just read the instructions. So the laptop does come pre-assembled. You've got the own components. You open up the laptop, you add the components, install the storage, install the memory, prepare the Wi-Fi module. That's strange. Why isn't that already prepared if it comes in the laptop? Anyway, we'll get to this. Complete the Wi-Fi module install. Maybe that's sort of part of the process, is that everything is in there and it's the safest way to ship it to you. And the thing you do is actually what they don't do at the factory, which is assembly. So when you have assembly, someone has to go and do all of these tasks. That's quite a resource intensive thing, and it probably adds cost to the overall price. So I was really happy with the value I got from the laptop. So if I just look through this, yeah, okay, I think we know what we need to do. So for now, I'm just going to put this to the side on the assumption that at least for now, we're going to be okay. And so we've got everything we need. Got the instructions. Is this instructions? Yeah, I think it is. It kind of gives you the heads up of what's what, the how-to guide, the user manual, where to go for that in different languages. Yeah, it's pretty standard. Nice little, nice little framework document there, and you can kind of see that sort of working really nicely. Anyway, put that off to one side along with our hard drive. Let's actually take a look at this, because normally I'm the kind of person who goes straight for the technology, but I know I need to assemble a few things here. So let's just take this out of the case. And I have to say, I'm really shocked at how good this feels in the hand. I mean, this is this is actually incredible. I was really worried that, I was going to get something that was quite, what's the word? I didn't think it was going to feel premium, because I was making a massive saving on the typical comparisons like a Dell or HP, but I'm actually really impressed with this. It feels really nice. It genuinely does feel like, just out of the box, just holding it in my hand, it feels really good. It feels kind of weighty. It feels like a laptop should do, and I think I'm surprised how thin it is and how nice the finish is, given I need to do some assembly here. Like you can see I need to go inside and put all of these parts. But yeah, I'm super impressed. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep this here. I'm going to keep that there just to sort of make it easier to do the assembly on the desk. I could get like another rubber mat, but I actually think this is fine. Let's actually do one thing before we start with this. Let's actually open it up. Let's see what that looks like. So we'll open this up, and wow, that is, again, really nice. If I sort of hold it to this camera here, you can see it's actually stunning. Like it's a really good build. I think they've done a really nice job on the keyboard. The keyboards have a really nice feel. It's got a really nice sort of side profile. If I can kind of convince the camera to focus on my hand here, you can kind of see that that side profile there is really, really good. If I cover my face, it'll do a better job of sort of focusing on that. This is the underside, so you can kind of see the different ports and where these sort of expansion cards end up going. They kind of just slot in like that. And then, yeah, very final thing. I mean, that's a side profile with me in the picture, kind of fighting with the focus of the camera. But yeah, I think it's pretty good. I'm really pleased. And yeah, when I open it, I did see this issue online. If I just open this and let's use a top up view. Yeah, people were complaining about this sort of, this sort of springy, you can kind of see it better on the top camera, this sort of springy kind of effect that you get with the screen. But actually, in real life, that is a small thing. Another nice touch I've just noticed is that if I hold it up to this camera, if we go up here, you can kind of see these are hardware. Why doesn't it want to focus? Here we go. If I put my hand there, yeah. You can kind of see you've got hardware, mute and camera buttons. So how many laptops have that built in? Not even a MacBook Pro has that. Instead, you have to fiddle around with lots of software buttons. Now this is a really nice touch just to have it right there. Could get dirty. The microphone and the webcam could get dirty as a result of that, but either way, I think this is really good. Here's again another view. Here's sort of a side profile, and yeah, I'm pretty pleased with this. Actually, I think this is going to be a great laptop. Obviously, I'll do a long-term review of some sort, but yeah, I think this is really good. Anyway, I've been going on too long. We need to actually get building this because I don't have too much time. So let's come out full screen. Let's go to the top and let's have a look at this. So remove the framework laptop from the box. Yep. Locate the framework screwdriver in the package. Yep, we've got this here. And what we want to do, keep it handy. It's the only tool you'll need to assemble the whole thing. So my iFixit kit over there can kind of take a break. Although I do prefer the handle on my iFixit tool, but the spudger on this is pretty good. I don't think you get a spudger with the iFixit kit that I have anyway. So it's nice to have everything we need. Okay, the framework screwdriver in the package. Depending on what you've customized, you need to unpack everything. So let's go ahead and do that actually. No, let's wait, because it's quite clear that although the website says you can open all these things, let's just open one as an example. Let's just see if we can open this, and if I opened it upside down. So if I open this and I just use this to sort of hold it up to the camera, you can see that it's quite simple. It's just got like a USB dongle on one side, and then it's got the actual port on the other side. So it goes into the laptop. The laptop's all using USB ports. And then, yeah, that's just basically how it goes. So what I will do is I'll just leave those up there, and when I need to, I'll open all of them and we can kind of get to it that way. So what do we need to do? Using the T5 bit in the framework screwdriver, unscrew the 5 fasteners. Now, one thing I always hate is, like, what is a T5? A T5 is going to be, looking at the screws, this is a T5. So it does actually say really nicely on the drill there. I don't know if I can even get the camera to focus on this, but it does actually say there that's a T5. So it's good that they're sort of, you know, not leaving you dry. I can never remember the screwdriver naming conventions, whatever. So let's actually start doing this. Let's start opening this up. The torque on that was actually quite interesting. It's quite tight. There's always this phenomenon with tech where I never know how tight is tight enough. And in some cases, if you tighten it too hard, now, this isn't magnetic, so I'm immediately very tempted to use my own kit. So using a T5 screwdriver, unscrew the 5 fasteners on the bottom. These fasteners will remain attached to the bottom cover. Okay, so I immediately tried to pull them there. They don't come out. They remained fastened. So here I am unscrewing these. Okay, and then this one is also another one that needs to be done. So let's just get that done there. Okay, so these 1, 2, 3, 4 are all loosened. The fastener on the bottom left circled in orange won't unscrew as far as the others, as it's acting as a lifter for the input cover. You'll hear it start clicking as you rotate when it's screwed far enough. Okay, so good little hint there of how much to expect it to screw. So let's just keep doing that. What I'm actually going to do is take this to another screen so I can read it, and then we can just do this full screen. So we can, there you go. I've heard it click a couple of times there. I won't do it anymore. Now that it's done that, the fastener on the bottom left circled in, turn the framework laptop over and open it to 100 degrees. Well, that's a bit risky. All right, so turn the framework laptop over and open it to 120 degrees. I have to say, I'm not a walking calculator, so I don't know how much 120 degrees is, but they do have a photo which kind of gives you a nice suggestion of what it is. I'll put that up on screen so you can see that. So let's just open it to 120 degrees. I think that's roughly right. Okay, and then important, do not pull off the laptop cover too fast, as it's still attached to the main board by the touch pad cable. So there's something here that's still attached. Okay, and I think what happens is that you kind of pull from here. There we go, and there we go. And if I just pull that, there's that still attached. Okay, so there's my laptop. Pretty pretty interesting. So yeah, I mean I have to say, I'm already, like, I've built computers before, okay, but there is something a little bit more fragile about laptops. I'm even watching how I talk so that I don't, like, you know, spit onto the laptop, because this is a little bit crazy. But I think what you can do is you can just, looking at the photo here, suggests that you can do that, and then you can work on it. I think the battery's down here anyway. This is the touchpad, and yeah, we're pretty much good to go. So if you're not familiar with framework laptops, essentially this is called the main board. Okay, so this is the main board. When you're done with the laptop, let's say you decide to upgrade it in the future, what you can actually do is you can take this main board out, put it into another case, and everything works. All the power and everything is just USB-C. So with one port, you can have a functioning computer, and then you can add whatever ports you need to add, maybe the HDMI. You could use this as like a nice little mini server somewhere in your house, like a really nice small mini server, doing some really sort of nice things. So this is quite cool to see. And I've seen some videos on Framework before, so I can already sort of identify where everything is. You can just see the batteries, well, I can see it, you can't see it. The speakers are just here, so if I just move this here, you can see there's a speaker here. You've got the, normally if you follow these cooling pins, you can figure out that the processor is going to be somewhere mounted on this little bar. So under there somewhere is the Intel processor. You've got the storage slot here, you've got the memory. And what is also nice is that each of these items have like a QR code. So, I mean, there's like QR codes everywhere. So if I just sort of take my phone to this and I just go, okay, go to that link, let's see what it says. Yeah, it actually shows you scan the QR code from the Framework device, get support and guides, blah, 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 blah. That is exactly what I did. That is exactly what I did. Scan the QR code. That's interesting. So let's try that again. Let's see if I maybe scan the wrong one. So if I go to that one, it gives me to this guide. So the QR codes aren't exactly doing what I think they should be doing, or maybe this particular one is not doing what I think it should be doing. Let's try this one here. So let's, first of all, this is tiny, so but I think the iPhone can handle it. Yeah, again, like if I just sort of put this to the camera, like you can see that it's clearly not finding the QR code. So not a great experience. Even so, I have the guide available to me here. I think it's fine, but yeah, that's not so great. So it's a nice touch, but when the links don't work, it's not so great. So anyway, okay, so maybe this is, let me just try this one more time. To me, these two look the same. That one looks different. So let's try this one. Maybe this one's the one that I should be trying. So let's try this one. Let's see. No, scan the QR code. It sends me to a page which basically says, look, scan the QR code and this should work, but there's nothing working. So maybe this is super early days. Maybe this particular machine got the wrong QR codes. Maybe these QR codes are going to work in the future and the links are placeholders. Who knows? Right, so let's carry on. You don't need to disconnect the touchpad cable to do most repairs. You can just flip the input cover over. If you do want to disconnect it though, make sure you disconnect the mainboard side using the finger loop. Mainboard side here, it has a finger loop. So this is the finger loop. In fact, I'll use a spudger just to sort of put my spudger through it. So that is a finger loop. So basically what the finger loop does is it guarantees that you put equal force on pulling it up, and then when you put it down, you can just use your thumb to do that. What I will say is that everything looks assembled. So I think the only thing I need to do, just by the looks of what I can see here, is all I think I need to do is just essentially plug the memory in, plug the storage in, and that is it. I'll be done, and then all the ports are external, so I can just close this up and we can carry on as normal. So I almost feel that confident that I feel like I don't need the instructions, but we won't do that. We'll keep reading. So carefully remove the input cover from the bottom right corner. If you need to, you can use a spudger and the screwdriver. Okay, cool. Install the storage. So the storage is going to come from this box here. So let's go ahead and open this up. I'll open it over here. I don't want any sort of dust or anything. That is one thing about this. My room's not a dusty place, but if I had a dusty environment, I might want to just, make sure that I do something to kind of clean the air. And because this is a hard drive, again, I kind of want to pay attention here. So let's just open this up. You can kind of see it's a WD Black, Western Digital WD. So that's what it looks like. It's kind of like a very simple thing to set up. So the thing about these is normally there's a little screw here. So let's just open that, and we can. What does it say? Get ready to install the storage by removing the fastener for it from the main board, which is marked in yellow. So let's just do that. That was on quite tight. That is on quite tight. I was on so tight I wasn't sure I was supposed to be unscrewing it, but there we go. We've got it loose. And the way this works when you're building a PC is actually you take this out entirely. For that is magnetic suddenly, so we'll put that there. And then what you then do is you take your hard drive, and you know I've not got any sort of static protection here. I don't think you strictly need static protection, otherwise they would have given it to you. You then slot that in at an angle like that. It's kind of unintuitive. You put it in at an angle and it looks wrong because everything is, if I just record this on my phone for now, just because you can't really see the angle I'm sort of looking at here. So if I just sort of show you this to you now, it looks wrong because everything is like at this weird angle. But then what you do is you kind of push it down, and then you screw this where my thumb is right now. So as you push it down, that screw goes in, and that's pretty much how it works. So there you go. That's a sort of a hands-on experience of that. So let's just let go of that. I'll stop recording my phone, and then we can go in here and just screw this down. So you'll just keep screwing. And I'm not going to try and over tighten it. The main reason that's there is to keep it down. It's not there to kind of initiate connection. And there is actually a contact point. So unless the screw is down, I think the hard drive and the circuit doesn't complete, and therefore it knows there's no hard drive. But this is the main point of contact here. So that's all good, and we're ready to go. Right. Align the storage, use the finger gently. Okay, the next thing is the RAM. So let's go ahead and do that. And this is quite straightforward. It's very much like the hard drive. Again, if you've built a PC, this is very, very straightforward. But with this, what you have to be careful of is you get these little slots, and if you're not paying attention, you might not realize that those slots need to align with this slot here. So let me just show you a little bit close to the camera. There's this slot right there, if I can get the camera to focus. Yeah, there's this slot right there where the pointer is, and that slot needs to match up with this slot where my spudger is here. So in essence, let's just pop this out. I'm going to be super careful. And I think we're looking at something like that. Okay, so that one goes in, and what there is also is this sort of thing on the side. So let's just look and see what this mechanism wants us to do. Insert the module into the main board at the around 25-degree angle, aligning the notch in the memory. Once the module is fully inserted, it will sit at a 25-degree angle. Gently press down towards the main board until the clips located at the top of the bottom receptacle snap into place. Okay, I better record this for funds. Again, this is sort of the view from my perspective of POV, as it were. So if I basically can see this is the 25-degree angle they talk about, and oh, that's painful. Oh, that's painful. That is not a great sound to hear. But you can see it's kind of working there. So if I just zoom out and then do this, yeah, you can see everything's nicely sorted. So these essentially clip in. They have to clip in. That is how you know, RAM sticks have worked in the past on some PC builds that I've done. But yeah, that was a little bit, you know, that was a little bit sort of tough to kind of figure out. So yeah, that worked. We'll just do it on the second one, and then we'll move forward. So let me just go ahead and do that. This is actually the last thing I need to install. And for this, I think this one goes this way around, because the other one went the way you would expect, but this one goes, the other one kind of went upside down. This one's going the right side up, so you can see there's a sticker. The other one, if I take this out, the other one went in like that, and this one's going to go in like that. So we'll go ahead and this is not a fun process. I kind of don't want to do it, but let's just go in and press that down. There you go. That's good. So that's in. Everything is nice. The laptop is nicely plugged in and set up to work. So that's the memory. Prepare the Wi-Fi module. If your Wi-Fi module came pre-installed, lucky you, you can skip over the Wi-Fi steps, but don't forget to install the driver bundle, the 11th gen. Cool. So one thing with this laptop is that obviously I ordered this without an operating system because I know ways of getting an operating system key for much cheaper than what Framework were offering on their website. They're, you know, if you're a gamer, you'll know about these. They're sites that sell CD keys essentially, and those CD keys are for operating systems. And those keys can activate Windows for you. So that's actually how I get my Windows Pro keys and whatever. And so I always go for the top version of Windows because it's basically cheaper than Windows Home if you're buying that from the vendor, like an OEM version. So this comes with nothing installed. So when I boot this up, I'll get like a BIOS screen. Maybe I'll talk about that. A BIOS screen, and that BIOS screen will want me to do a bunch of stuff. I'll plug in a USB stick. We'll boot from that USB stick, changing the BIOS to do that. There'll be a guide on how to do that. And then once we've installed Windows, Windows installs its own sort of startup setup, and you're pretty much good to go. So what they're talking about there is a driver install. Once you load the computer, the drivers aren't installed, but the Wi-Fi module is there, and the driver simply just sets up the laptop to start working with the internet. So it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, look, this cable comes all the way around, and it's been done for me, thankfully, so I don't need to sort of install it. But it's good to know that that is something I can install. That is a great thing about this laptop. There are so many screws here that I feel confident if I can follow a guide and I'm not intimidated by this, then this is good. Obviously don't do stupid things. Like I don't have a drink on my desk right now. I have made sure I have the time to sort of focus on this, so much so I'm even recording it with a camera and everything. And the other reason I'm recording it is just for memory's sake. I can come back to the video and I can see what I need to do, where I need to go if I need to. But yeah, that's the main board. We're pretty much done. Storage is installed. Their RAM is installed. That's all I need to do. Everything else is external. So at this point, I can pretty much just go back to assembling everything in. So the touch side cable, so this is this. It does say here to make sure that this is fully installed, and I think it is. Like these kinds of things are super sensitive. When I was taking apart my PC, sometimes when I want to water cool the graphics card, these are the kinds of connectors they use for really fragile cables, and they're so tough that you have to apply quite a lot of force, but the force you apply has the potential to break them. So I always start to panic a little bit when I see those. But yeah, all of these screws here for the keyboard are pretty fascinating. There's a ton of screws there. I think it just keeps it all nicely things. And yeah, to be honest with you, I love being able just to see my laptop. I might actually even take a photo while I'm here, because you don't often get a chance to do this at all. So yeah, and maybe I'll take a photo of the setup, and so you can see how I'm actually recording this. Let's do it like this. There we go. Boom. Okay, cool. Okay, fun time over. Everything's going back, and this is what we're doing now. I want to make sure that the cable folds correctly. That is correct. So we can just do that. Okay, I think how easy is that? I think that's it. You know, I don't want to sort of curse myself here, but I think that might be it, and everything is back to, you know, how it should be. Actually, no, I've spoken too soon. One of the things you always want to do, I'll try and show this on camera, is one of the things you always want to do when you put something together is you just want to check for tolerances like this, and hopefully here you can see that there's a gap there, and so I know that's not what it's supposed to look like. So what I'll do is I'll take this back out. I'll take it back out the way I was supposed to, and I will kind of why is this not going in? Oh, here we go. I definitely spoke too soon. There you go. It might be, you know, I wasn't paying attention when I took it apart, but I don't know if you recall, but at the very beginning it said that the left-hand screw, when you turn it upside down, the left-hand side screw would still be there. So maybe I should read the instructions. Let's go have a look. So flip the input cover on the bottom so that the keyboard is facing up and attach to the bottom keypad. The covers are magnetic and should fit into another easily. If you feel any resistance, simply lift the input cover and try again. Oh, so this is magnetic. I did not realize that. That's pretty cool. So if I do that, I can actually feel the magnets. That's quite a nice touch. And I think what is going on is that I think what will happen is when I screw this down, you see when I do that, everything is in the right place, definitely. And when I do that, everything's in the right place there. So the reason that's not going down is because of the screw. That's not in the instructions, so I think it would be nice if it said the bottom right corner will still have a little bit of space, because that is to me, that is a detail where I might, if I'm paranoid like I am, I might look at something like that and assume that I've done something wrong. But if you recall, on the back, this was the screw that was a little bit slow. So, well, not slow, that stuck out a little bit and doesn't unscrew as much as the others. So now that that's done, I can close that. That closed absolutely fine. I can turn the laptop upside down. And in the order that we actually did this, close the framework laptop, turn it upside down and reveal the empty expansion card bays and fasteners on the bottom. Use your T5 bit, screw all 5 fasteners back in. So I'm going to start with this one. And I can confirm that when you screw that in, that gap does close itself down. So that bottom left corner introduces a gap. I think it said it at the beginning and I wasn't paying attention. And by the time you're done with that, you are pretty much good to go. So we'll go back and screw all the others in. Again, I never know how much torque is the right torque. I wish tools like this showed it to you, or I wish there was like some sort of ratchet. I mean, I'm asking for a lot here. I wish there was a ratcheting mechanism in here. I don't know if you've ever installed a roof rack, but a company called Thule, they make roof racks, and their tensioning system has basically a plastic design that when you apply too much tension, the bit slips inside of the holder, but it doesn't destroy the holder that you get given. So there's just it's really well designed. So basically when you've applied the right amount of torque, any more torque just makes the bit slip inside of this. That would be a really nice touch. Or, you know, just give us, because this is a tool you're going to use to replace this laptop, maybe you could have something in here that kind of just allows you to make sure you're doing it right. But anyway, let's just, when it's tight, that's tight enough. That's all I'm going to do. Basically, I'm not going to try to keep pushing. So I just keep screwing these in. And it's picking up a little bit of lint as I do this. So let's just, I always like to just confirm. If you've ever done PC water cooling, a phenomenon you find is as you tighten the screws, let's say you started here and you work your way around, if you then go back and check that with like something like an O-ring, you'll find that screw is loose. Even though you tightened it when you put it in, it's not until you tighten all the others that you have to come back and then check them again, because there's a little bit of play in the material. And so when you tighten one in, that's obviously up, but when you tighten that in, it gives it a little bit more give, and you can maybe get 1 or 2 turns in. So I think that one's done. 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 Okay, great. So now we can move on to these. So these expansion slots are dead easy. The thing I want to think about though is, where do I want them? They're pretty modular, and so this is not like a one and you're done thing. I can pretty much choose where I want things. So the way I currently use my laptop at the moment, my MacBook Pro, when I have it upside down like this, the HDMI port is on the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up to mirror my MacBook so that my muscle memory is exactly the same. So for that one, the USB port is there. Sorry, the HDMI port is there. So you can see that that's basically installed if I kind of help the camera focus there. And then that's how it looks like when it's installed. It's dead easy. So we'll just go ahead and finish that for the others. And we'll There you go, that's really good. There's a little button here that that feels quite nice actually. A bit addictive, but I think all the others. So that was a USB-C. And then what I've done for this one is, unlike my MacBook, I actually ordered a USB-A and USB-C on this side. Because I really only need 2 USB-C ports, and I believe these are Thunderbolt certified. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I believe they are Thunderbolt certified. So I'm actually able, I keep opening these upside down. I don't know what it is about me, but okay, that is what it is. So the reason I quite like USB-As, you know, companies like Logitech, for example, I bought a mouse like 3 months ago, and they're still making these little silly receivers with USB-A. So just, you know, it just shows that although technology is moving on, some companies are still, you know, busy doing weird things. Okay, so that's it. That's that's a laptop built. It's crazy to say that, but that is it. That is dead nice, super easy, really nice build quality. The speakers might be awful, I've heard, but you know what? I think for what I paid and what I'm getting, 1 terabyte, 64 gig of RAM, an i7 processor, 12th gen. I think that's pretty good. So the key question is, will it post? That's what most PC builders want to know. When they build a laptop, will it post? So I'll just go ahead and hit the on button, and we'll see what happens. I'm pretty sure that's everything I needed to do. So I'm not seeing anything. So it's already not a great sign. So let me just, I've even unplugged my mouse. So that is not doing what it should be doing. So let's just go back to instructions here. Close the framework, blah, blah, blah. Insert the expansion cards for choice. The text logo and or QR code. Expansion card must be facing down. Yeah, that's fine. Plug your power cable into the USB-C expansion card. Fine, I didn't plug my power cable in. To do that, bear with me, because I'm not going to use the one on my desk, because that is actually plugged into a hub, and I think what the laptop wants is it wants some power, and some tech devices do this right out the gate. They want power so that they can validate that they're, you know, set up correctly. Let me just get my power brick. I'll be back in 1 sec. So I have one of these Ugreen, what is it? Ugreen 100 watt or 120. What is this actually? What does it say? Fast charger. I don't know how many watts it is. In essence, it's a pretty, 100 watt, it says right there. It's a 100 watt GAN charger. Let me put it right there. 100 watt GAN charger. And the great thing about it is it has lots of ports. So this is the only thing in my backpack when I'm traveling, and I can pretty much charge everything I want without a problem. So that is sort of what I use. So I didn't buy a charger with the framework because I already have a charger. And what I'll do is I need to choose what I unplug carefully with all my gear on my desk. So unfortunately, it's the Google Home that's going to have to be sacrificed. Cool. So that's all done. There we go. It's switched on. Now, will it post? Here we go. Let's have a look. Moment of truth. The text logo and QR code. Open the lid. Note that the first boot will take a while before the logo comes up on screen, as the system does memory training. Oh, okay. Wow. The more memory you've installed, the longer this could take, on the order of a minute or two with 64 gig. Which is me. So for 64 gig, it's doing memory training. I think what memory training is about is about training the processor and the system to understand how fast the RAM works. And the reason that's important is because you essentially want to be able to make sure the computer and the memory, it's a bit like your brain, making sure your brain is in sync with like your thoughts. It's kind of what it is. So this has booted really nicely. The screen is lovely, by the way. It's really, I should have got a matte screen. I don't know why. Anyway, everything's booted up fine. I'll sort of flip the laptop like this so you can see it says at the moment that it needs to have a boot device, and I don't have the boot device with me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop recording here, and we'll come back and we'll go through the Windows installation, and we'll go through the driver installation as well, and we'll kind of get that up and running as well. So we'll take a break here and then we'll come back for that a little bit later. Okay, so we're back. I had to go and get a USB drive because I didn't actually have one that was big enough. I had one for 32 gig and so on and so forth, but sometimes when you're creating these media drives, it does need quite a large one. So I went and got one from a local shop. It's 128 gig. It was actually quite reasonable, £20. I remember when these would be very expensive. So 120 gig for USB-A. Flash drive is very good. I have a USB-A port because, of course, Framework, I was able to choose the port. So I'm going to use this to create an installation disk, and I'll kind of walk you through the process. I've changed the camera here to kind of focus on the screen, so I hope it works. I can't see what's going on. So anyway, nonetheless, let's carry on. So the thing we have to do, I have to change inputs on this screen, because on the second HDMI port, I have a Windows machine, and if I switch my Logitech mouse over, that's running. So let's start recording this screen so you can actually see what I'm doing. So what I've done is I've searched for a Windows 11 boot device, and I've actually gone ahead and done it. But basically I'll search Windows 11 boot device, create installation media for Windows, and on this page it walks you through the guide. You hit Windows 11 and you kind of need to do two things. First of all, you need to create the media creation tool, and you also need to download the ISO. So two things. The installation media is the actual ISO, the thing that contains Windows. And then you also need to be able to create this sort of media tool that kind of creates the installation and puts it onto this USB drive. So once you put this USB drive, that application flashes the USB drive, it puts Windows on there, which makes it a boot device. That means when you put this inside of your computer, it behaves like a boot device. The Framework laptop recognizes that, and everything should just start working. So I've already gone ahead and downloaded. I've gone through the processes of downloading everything, but just make sure you follow the instructions. It says, look, this option here is for users that want to create a bootable installation. You go down, you choose your version, you installed it, and then what you want to be able to do is also download this create Windows 11 installation media. So really you kind of want these two options here that I'm sort of highlighting. So those are the two options you're going to need. So I've gone ahead and done that. They are, I don't even know where they are. Let's see where I put them. If I open up my file explorer, it doesn't want to open. It's taking its time. Let's go to my desktop. I think they're on my desktop. I hope they're on my desktop. It's going to open every single time I clicked it, of course. See, these are the reasons, yeah. So this is one of the files, and there's the other file. So that's all I need. I was doing some video editing last on this computer, so that's why those are there. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead, this is security protected, so I'll go ahead and open this up, and we will get into it and get the flash drive out. This is kind of interestingly packed. It's kind of like got two. Really what you need are scissors, so I'll just go ahead and use those because I seem to have them still. So I'll just do a couple of diagonal cuts. That should, no, okay. That is pretty nuts. That is really well packed. I don't know why it needs this much packaging and plastic. I mean, this is all I want. Why do we need all this plastic? Nonetheless, we're gonna put this into that computer over there. That's actually my desktop computer. You probably can't see it on frame, but I'll put it in anyway. Put that in. And then now that that's in, we're going to make sure that it's recognized. It's definitely recognized because Dropbox popped up with a prompt. So we're just going to leave it in there as is. And then the first thing we're going to do is open up the media creation tool. And this will allow us to basically use the flash drive. And we're putting this ISO that's on my desktop. So getting a few things ready. Now, again, you don't actually need a Windows installation key to do this. And when you install Windows, it'll ask you which version of Windows, Home, Pro, whatever. All of that you can do later. So don't feel like you have to have the license key ready. You can actually go ahead. You can even run Windows 11 on a trial for 30 days before you have to put a key in, typically. So this is the option. Use this recommended option for not for this PC. So this is another thing. Like, I'm using another PC for this, but you might not be using another PC yourself. So don't tick that option. Select next. USB flash drive, it needs to be at least 8 gig. So I could have used the 32 gig one that I had, but for some bizarre reason I thought it needed to be bigger. So anyway, this is what we're going to use, a USB flash drive. It figures out that there's only one flash drive it can actually use for this purpose. So go ahead and hit next. And what is interesting is it's now downloading what I thought I'd downloaded already. So there was no way for me to tell it to use the file that I downloaded. That's really frustrating. So I guess if you're learning from me, you don't need to do what I did. You can just download the media installation tool and get it to download the necessary files. It's really important you don't tick that option, use the settings for this PC, because the problem with that is it will think you're running, if in my case, it'll think I'm running a proper desktop with all the different components and drivers. Instead, it will go and get a specific sort of maybe more neutral version, and it won't download the edition that I've got on here. Or download a more generic version and everything will go. Anyway, we'll wait for this to finish and then we'll go from there. Okay, so the flash drive is ready. I can just go ahead and we're going to start actually using it. So first of all, I will make sure everything's recording. It's literally the bane of my life. We'll get the laptop on. The flash drive is in the computer. I can pretty much just go ahead and unplug it, and that should be ready to go. So what I will do, well, let's just hit OK, and let's do this. Let's turn it off and put it into this USB port, so that's plugged in, and we'll switch it on. Okay, so the boot drive is already in there. So what it should do is it should recognize the drive. The logo is popped up. Yeah, and it's definitely recognized the drive because hopefully what you should be able to see, you've got a little spinny logo there. And if I zoom in, let me zoom into this a little bit, so you can see. See if I can play around with this. So I can't really screen record because I'm doing the installation itself. And if I can try and cut out the glare as well, that might be of help. So let's do a bit of that. Hopefully that's a little bit better, easier to see. I hope so. I hope it's easy to see anyway. So I'm just going to go ahead and select a few options here. Of course, there's no mouse, and this mouse is working. So the laptop keyboard mouse is working out of the box. Windows has recognized it. It's got the country and everything right. I think mainly from the laptop. I'll go ahead and install now. The touchpad feels really good. It feels not as good as my MacBook, but it does feel premium. And this is what I was mentioning earlier. You don't need to install the key at this moment. We can actually kind of yeah, that should be visible on screen. So you can say I don't have a product key, or you can just hit next, and it will ask you which version of Windows you want to use. I'm going to go for Pro. The Pro N doesn't install Internet Explorer and Edge and stuff like that. So I'll just go Windows 11 Pro, hit next, and accept all the things I need to confirm. I want to do a customized installation. This is the boot drive that's already installed. You can actually say, tell this to basically perform like a new drive. So we'll go ahead, hit apply. To ensure that all the Windows features work correctly, Windows might create additional partitions. Click OK. And it does that absolutely fine. And now I can actually use this drive for this operation. So hit next. It's just a basic standard Windows installation. You can find lots of tutorials online on how to do this, and it's pretty straightforward. So this should be quite fast because everything is running off the the drive, and this is USB 3.1 enabled. I was quite pleased with this actually. USB 3.2 Gen 1, so it's actually 200 megabytes per second read speed, which if everything is copied on there is really fast basically. So when it says getting files ready for installation, that is basically just copying the files. The fan's booted up, so I could definitely hear the fan. I'm not sure if that's a sign of things to be worried about. To be fair, I probably need to also do a BIOS update, and I probably also need to install drivers so that Windows knows how to control all the fans. But it's good to know the fan's working, as I can hear. I really hope this isn't as loud as it actually is in earnest. If I try and sort of, the fan sort of goes across the top here, so that's where it is. But we'll wait for this to finish. There you go, it's the framework logo's back up. Now, I always wonder, when this happens a second time, Windows catches itself and doesn't boot from the boot drive that's in there. So in essence, when you go through this, don't do anything silly like unplugging this during the process. That's going to sort of ruin everything. So leave this plugged in until Windows either tells you it's safe to do so, or you boot into Windows and it's very clear that it's installed and working, and then you can remove everything. So we'll just see what this is doing. The fan is super interesting. It's not an annoying sounding fan, but it's definitely audible. Now, on a hot summer's day, if this was running, I probably would be okay with this for a certain amount of time, but I wouldn't, compared to the MacBook Pro, this is just not what I'm used to. So I've never really, I have heard the fan. I only hear the fan when I'm rendering really large videos or doing a lot of, I don't know, CPU intensive work. Again, when I'm, for example, transcribing audio using AI tools, that actually gets the fan spinning on that because it uses a lot of resources. But for this, I'm just installing Windows. I wouldn't expect this to be kicking up the fans. But again, it could be a BIOS thing where the fan is a little bit sort of out of tune. So after this, we'll do a BIOS update. I'll sort of walk through how to do that, and then we'll keep pushing with this. So let's wait for this to finish. That felt like the first sort of wave of the installation. Now we wait for the next one. Okay, we're getting the spinny thing. The spinny thing is a Windows thing, so that makes me, kind of fills me with confidence that everything is working well and everything is running. So should be good. That is just a moment thing. There you go. And we have the Windows installation. It's quite nice. I've not actually done a Windows 11 installation from scratch, so this is quite nice to see. That is the correct country. United Kingdom, yes. Do you want a second keyboard? No. And let's check everything's good. Yeah, so let's connect it to the Wi-Fi. It's good that the Wi-Fi is already working out of the gate, so we'll get that kind of set up. What that will probably do is it will use the internet to check Windows itself for drivers that it thinks it needs. That is good for, drivers you didn't know, but what I'll try and do is I'll try and remember what it actually does update. Normally it should give you a list of what it's going to update if it does that. So it's just checking for updates now. I don't know if you can hear the fan, but it really wants to go somewhere. Okay, I think we're there. Hi. That's normally a good sign. That's normally, I hope in the background it's been doing installations and kind of setting things up. I hope it's not been waiting until now to do everything. So yeah, this might take a few minutes. We'll let this run, and then when everything is up, we'll basically say that this is a great installation. The next thing I'll do is try and install BIOS updates, and I think that's just a matter of getting the files, putting them on the device, and everything should work. I'm just looking at a framework document about the BIOS update, and I've got a 12th gen system, so this update was written when? December. I think my laptop probably already has the latest BIOS, because this BIOS was released on December the 13th, 2022. And so I'll take a pass unless I start noticing issues, in which case I'll definitely install it. So we'll give it a moment and then we'll wait. Okay, so we have installed the basic stuff. What I haven't installed though is the 12th gen BIOS driver. So this is a driver bundle. I'm screen recording on the actual laptop now. I'm running OBS already. That's the first thing I actually installed. The process, we should be able to record the process and get that working. So let's just see what happens here. I think this bundle, I got it from, I haven't even installed Chrome yet, but I got it from the framework website. There's a specific one for 12th gen Intel, which is what this is. It's one driver bundle, and I think I'll kind of figure out how to scroll down here. It basically has all these drivers. So the Bluetooth, the chipset, the GNA, this is a fingerprint reader, I believe. There's a whole bunch of things. And so when you install these things, although everything seems to be working now, you'll find the computer just works a lot better, which is why I think the fan is running. Maybe I'm wrong about the fan, but I'm fairly certain the fan doesn't need to be running this hard. So we'll let it sort of sit and install everything it needs to. It's kind of doing that in the background now. The fan is absolutely having a tear at the moment. It's unbelievable. But that we'll wait and see what's going on, and then yeah, it's installing one of 11 drivers. So installing the touchpad, installing the Wi-Fi driver, that kind of stuff, the kind of stuff that you just need to work on a laptop. That is a sort of maybe a downside of this, right? So when you buy a laptop from someone like Dell, as soon as you open it, it comes with everything working. But, and here's a big but, they install a ton of junk on there, and they install a ton of stuff they'd like to do value add-on. So I would rather this experience where I install just what I need and I'm able to sort of customize the OS how I want it, versus the other way of doing it, which is you buy something. Even Apple do this. They'll install software that you don't need or don't want on your computer because they like their customers to have their products. So they'll put things like Mail. I never use the Mail app. They'll put things like Calendar. I never use the Calendar app on a Mac or a Mac computer. I use other apps for those things. So that is something that you see in the industry all around. So yeah, we'll wait for this to finish, and then we'll see if the laptop settles. This whole time I've had it plugged in. It actually recommends you have it plugged in all times, and you have at least 20% battery. Whilst I've had it plugged in, it actually managed to charge the laptop to full, so it's been fully charged this whole time. But we'll just let this finish, and then we'll see what happens next. It's going to restart the computer. So that was the last one. As soon as we do that, it will just restart. So let's do that. There you go, that's restarting. Now it's installing what I would think are Windows updates and other things, it restarts. And hopefully this time we have everything ready to go. So we can just sort of get things to start going. And the first thing I'll probably want to do is spend some time installing software. Whenever you get a Windows laptop, dial in all the Windows settings, get everything set up, because this is going to be a work computer. I'm probably going to only put the absolute bare minimum of what I need on here. I've got my MacBook, which is where I install a ton of stuff. And there you go, we have a working laptop. It's all customized, and yeah, all in all that probably took an hour. If I had everything ready to go from installation to this bit, it took an hour, but you know, I think it worked out pretty well. I think it was okay, and we have everything running. If you've enjoyed this, let me know if you've got any questions about the framework laptop. More than happy to answer them. Ask whatever you want and I'll try and do my best to answer the questions, and yeah, give my experience as an owner of one of these laptops. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.